We continue now at the top of Daf Dalet Amud Aleph and Mesechet Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 4a. The Gemara continues. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Omer. Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, Kagon de Nodar. Let's say he makes the Neder, and the Bach changes the Girsa to Kagon de Nozar. We're talking about where he becomes a Nazir. V'hu beveis hakvaros, and he's inside a cemetery. In other words, the Gemara in the previous Amud had asked, how can you have Baal Ta'acher? How can you violate the Isser of delaying when it comes to Nazirus? The moment the person says he's a Nazir, he's a Nazir. And if he doesn't keep to the Nazirus, so he's violating those laws, but he's not delaying the Nazirus. How can you have a delay of the Nazirus? And the answer is if he's in a cemetery, so in order to become a Nazir and start the process, he's going to have to come out of the cemetery and purify himself and start that Nazirus right away. And if he delays that process, that would be Baal Ta'acher by Nazirus. And the Gemara says, Hanichol amando Omar lo chaylo aleh nazirus me'alter. Now that works according to the one who says that a person doesn't become a Nazir immediately when he's in the Beis HaKvaros. So according to that mando Omar, if he delays the process to become a Nazir, that would be delaying. But if immediately when he gets out of the cemetery, he begins the process to purify himself and to start the Nazirus, then he's okay. But according to the one who says that immediately in the Beis HaKvaros the Nazirus is Chal, so then Mi'ika Baal Ta'acher, so then also there is no Baal Ta'acher in that case, it's Chal immediately. He happens to be in a Beis HaKvaros, but the actual Nazirus is Chal right away. V'yoden further, Ha'amar Mar bar Rav Ashi. Mar bar Rav Ashi said, Chayla Nazirus aleh me'alter, that really everybody agrees that the Nazirus is Chal right away. V'chi pligi le'inyan Malkus pligi, and the only machlokus really is whether the person gets Malkus or not. And so therefore really everybody agrees that the Nazirus is immediately. And the Gemara says, no, afilu hachi, nevertheless, kamle be'Baal Ta'acher, there still could be Baal Ta'acher, misham tekama acher Nazirus to Tahara, because still there's the concept of doing the Nazirus in purity. So even if you hold the Nazirus is Chal right away, and there's a violation over there, but still there's a concept of delaying the Nazirus of Tahara. And the Mefarish over here says, le'inyan Malkus pligi, Laman do Amar Chaylo Aleh Nazirus. So according to this understanding, the understanding of Mar bar Rav Ashi, so according to the one who says that the Nazirus is Chal right away in the cemetery, so all that Man Domer is saying is Malkinan le de Metame Atzma Beis HaKvaros. All we're doing is we're really giving him Malkus, because here he is, he's Tamei in the Beis HaKvaros when he's a Nazir. Well, Laman Domer lo Chaylo Aleh Nazirus, and the one who says there is no Nazirus, it's not that there's no Nazirus. It just means de lo Malkinan le. It just means he doesn't get Malkus. Hoel be Beis HaKvaros Nadir, since he made the Neder to become a Nazir in the Beis HaKvaros. Avalakuli Alma, but according to everybody, La'alter having Nazir, he's going to be a Nazir immediately. V'leka Baal Ta'acher, and there's no delaying over here because he's a Nazir immediately. Ta'amrina Nami, I'achal Kamle B'Baal Tochel. For example, if he would eat what he's not supposed to eat, let's say he has grapes, wine, so then he would violate that Isser, Baal Tochel. He would violate the Isser of having the grapes or having the wine. And then the Gemara answered that even if you say the Nazirus is Chal immediately, still there could be Baal Ta'acher, the Kama Acher le Nazirus de Tahara, because he can delay the Nazirus that's supposed to be done in purity. Because what he really needs to do is, he needs to leave the Beis HaKvaros immediately, and he has to start becoming a Nazir in purity, and if he delays that process, even if you say that he's a Nazir immediately, but if he delays the Nazirus of Tahara, so that's going to be Baal Ta'acher. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Ashi says, Hoel v'chein, since this is the case, so Nazir shetimo atzmo b'mezid, let's say you have a Nazir who's metame himself on purpose, over mishum Baal Ta'acher the Nazirus Tahara. He also is going to transgress Baal Ta'acher because he's delaying the pure Nazirus by making himself tameh. And the Mefarish says, v'chein Nazir bi'alma, the same is true by a regular Nazir, shetimo atzmo b'mezid, if he makes himself tameh b'mezid, aval gav de mechalel the Nazirus, even though he's mechalel, he desecrates the Nazirus in that fashion, but kam le Baal Ta'acher the Nazirus Tahara, but he is delaying the pure Nazirus. That would also be a form of Baal Ta'acher. And the Gemara continues, Rav Acha Brei de Ravika Amar, Rav Acha Brei de Ravika says, over beBaal Ta'acher tagalachto. There can be Baal Ta'acher by a Nazir, let's say he delays the shaving. And we don't even need to say that according to the one who says that the process of shaving at the end of the Nazirus is ma'akev. Even according to the one who says the shaving is not ma'akev, it's not required. Mitzvahs giluach miho lo mekayim. Still, he's not fulfilling the mitzvah of shaving, and therefore there can be Baal Ta'acher. And the Mefarish says, Rav Acha Amar, my Baal Ta'acher ika b'Nazir. What Baal Ta'acher is there by a Nazir? Ika Baal Ta'acher de tegalachas. There's Baal Ta'acher when he delays delays in the shaving. Because the halacha is that when the Nazirus is over, he has to shave himself. Carbon, he has to bring a carbon. And if he delays that process, delays the shaving, then there's going to be Baal Ta'acher. Now, even according to the one who says the shaving is not ma'akiv in terms of bringing the carbon, nevertheless, mitzvah legaleach, it is a mitzvah to shave. And that would be called delaying that particular mitzvah. That can be an example of Baal Ta'acher when it comes to a Nazir. And the Gemara continues, Mar Zutra Breder of Mori Amar Mar Zutra Breder of Mori says, over Baal Ta'acher karbonos, if he can transgress Baal Ta'acher when it comes to the karbonos. And the Mefarish says, Baal Ta'acher karbonos of the Mashi Leila carbon over Baal Ta'acher. Let's say he delays in bringing those karbonos, which we talk about at the end of the Nazirus, he has to bring these karbonos. So if he delays in bringing those, that's going to be a violation of Baal Ta'acher. But the Gemara asks on this, Umin Hacha Nafkale, is that really learned out from here? Mehasam Nafkale, that's learned out over there from the following pasuk. In other words, the Gemara here has been assuming that we're learning out, we're comparing Nazir to Neder, and we're saying this concept of Baal Ta'acher by Nazir, but there's another source if you don't bring the karbonos that it's Baal Ta'acher, because the pasuk says, Ki Dorosh Yidrashenu, it says that he's surely going to seek them out, Elu Chatos Vashamos, referring to karbonos. If you have a carbon Chatos, you have a carbon Asham, you have to bring it without delay. So that's true of all karbonos. You don't need a special halacha by Nazir. And the Mefarish over here says, Ki Dorish Yidrashenu Elu Chatos Vashamos, the Mechayiv Adam, Koyalai, Baal Ta'acher, there's a din by carbon of Baal Ta'acher. V'lo Yalfinan Meha Hekesha din Nedarim. You don't need to do a hekesh, a comparison between Nazir and Neder. And so therefore, again, it can't be that that's what we're talking about when we do this hekesh and say there's Baal Ta'acher by Nazir. It can't be by karbonos, because that's from an independent source. And the Gemara says to that, no, because Ma'u Detema, Chidish Hu Shechid Torah b'Nazir. I might have thought, no, the whole concept by Nazir, there's a Chiddush by Nazir, and since Nazir in essence is a Chiddush, it's a novelty, so therefore maybe this regular din of karbonos does not apply to Nazir, and that's why you need the special Chiddush. And the Mefarish over here says, Ma'u detema chidushu ma'isa din Nazir. The whole ma'isa of Nazir is a chidush. V'yachi mekili beidalokai Baal Ta'acher. Maybe you would think that we're lenient and there is no Baal Ta'acher. Lo navgi karbonos mehai krod dechatos v'ashamos. Maybe we don't learn out the karbonos of a Nazir from the other karbonos of talking about chatos and ashamos. And the Gemara now wants to clarify my chiddush. So what chiddush is there by Nazir that you're referring to? If you're going to say that it's impossible for a person to obligate himself to bring a chatos of a Nazir. In other words, you can bring the carbon chatos of a Nazir if you actually are a Nazir, but you can't make yourself bring the chatos of a Nazir. And the Mefarish over here says, "The lo matvis leila chatos Nazir. Dim amar harei alai chatos Nazir." If a person were to say that I have upon myself I have an obligation to bring, I'm giving myself an obligation to bring a chatos Nazir. Lo amar klum, that would be nothing. V'lo machayiv, v'lo he's not chayiv anything. Masha engem b'shar karbonos. That's not true by other karbonos. The whole carbon shamar adam harei alai kach v'kach matvis. By other karbonos, you say I'm going to bring this carbon, it works. U'mechayiv lesu, you have to bring it. V'kevan the chiddush u'nasir. Therefore, since in this sense Nazir is a chiddush, emelo koyala b'bal ta'acher the b'shar karbonos. I might think there is no bal ta'acher by shar karbonos. Lachi itzrich lemichtav hachal akushay l'nedarim to koy nami bal ta'acher. That's why we need the hekesh to nedarim to say that there is bal ta'acher. So if you're going to say that is the chiddush by Nazir, that you can't obligate yourself in a chatos Nazir, but that's not really a chiddush. Because as the Gemara says, Harei chatas chaylev, what about a regular chatas? Shein matfisa beneder, you can't obligate yourself in a carbon chatas, you have to actually do the aveira. V'yover b'bal ta'acher, and there you do transgress bal ta'acher. And the Mefarish over here says, "V'chatas chaylev deina matfisa beneder di'amar harei alai chatas lomer klum." If a person says I'm going to bring a chatas, that's nothing. The reason why the Gemara says chatas chaylev is because the prototypical example of a chatas is when a person eats chaylev. Ve'afilu hachi ki achal chaylev de'mechayiv lavi chatas koi bal ta'acher. But if you do eat chaylev and you have to bring a chatas, so then there is bal ta'acher. So this idea that you can't obligate yourself in a chatas nazir, that's true by a regular chatas as well, that you can't obligate yourself. So that's not really a chiddush. Elamai chidushe. So rather, what is the chiddush when it comes to a nazir? I might think as follows: since if a person were to say, "Hareini nazir afilu min chartzon," let's say a person says he's a nazir, but just from the chartzon, just from the grape, just from the seeds of the grape. So having nazir is still going to be a nazir in that case. Have a nazir lakol. The halach is he's a regular nazir for everything, not just from chartzon. So ema lo li'aver la misham bal ta'acher. So therefore that's a chiddush, and therefore I might have thought there's no bal ta'acher. Kamashmal, and that's what it's teaching us the hekesh between nazir and neder. It's teaching us there is bal ta'acher. And the Mefarish over here says, Hoel v'mamar hareini nazir afilu mechartzon kolomar. The afilu bechartzon bilvad heiziratzmo. Let's say a person, I'm a nazir only as far as the chartzon. I'm a nazir only as far as the seed of the grape. Having nazir nami lakol, that halacha would be that the person is actually a nazir for everything. Dahainu chiddush, that's a chiddush. Diyu lo nader ele bechartzon bilvad. He only made the neder in terms of the chartzon. Ve'afilu achi mitzvah b'chol midi. Yet we're strict and we say he's also in everything. B'chol midi the meshaker, and anything that causes the intoxication. V'hoel v'chidushu lo leikum aleh b'bal ta'acher. And therefore, since he has this chiddush, maybe there shouldn't be bal ta'acher. Ki b'shar korbanos, like other korbanos, kamashvul and akeisha, to koi b'bal ta'acher. And that's what the Hekesh teaches us to neder, that there is bal ta'acher in this case. And the Gemara says, Hanichul amando amar, that works according to the one who says, Ki nazir min chartzon have nazir lakol, that indeed when a person makes himself a nazir from the chartzon, he's actually a total nazir for everything. El Rabbi Shimon damar ein nazir at sheyazir mikulin, but according to Rabbi Shimon who says you have to make the full nazirus in order to be a nazir, and the Mefarish says at sheyazir mikulin di'i amar hareini nazir mechartzon lave klum. According to Rabbi Shimon, it's nothing if you say nazir mechartzon. At sheyazir bakol, it's got to be a nazir for everything. Akati my chidusha, so we don't have a chiddush. According to Rabbi Shimon, Michael what are you going to say according to Rabbi Shimon? V'yod, and further, high chiddush l'chumru. This chiddush that you just said is actually a stringency. That's not a reason you shouldn't have bal ta'acher. And as the Mefarish says, v'yod high chidusha d'kamar l'chumru. V'aynu chumra diu lo nazir el b'davar echad v'havin nazir b'kulan. He's only saying chartzon, and you're saying he's a nazir and everything. That's a chiddush, and you can't give a chiddush l'chumra. We're trying to get a chiddush that would say that we should be more lenient, and we should say that there is no bal ta'acher. Elamai chidusha, and so rather the Gemara says, what's the chiddush by nazir? The sal gadai t'chamina hoa, because I might have thought that since, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video, on Daf Dalid Amud Beis.